wear these in all of my videos.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Bad idea.
Characters, love them or hate them, your reader needs to love them or hate them. And it's up to you, the writer, to make sure that they do. After all, they're called characters, not apatheticers, which is harder to say and not a word. One of the major things that you need to accomplish with any given character is to make sure that the reader likes or dislikes them the correct amount. As we'll see, likability can be a bit of an unintuitive concept. There are characters that seem on the surface like they would be really likable that audiences end up despising. If you've got a character that readers aren't gelling with, a character that no matter how you try, you just can't get them likable, then fear not, for I have 3 things that you can try to take an unlikable character and make them likable. I'm defining likability here as the desire the reader has for a character to succeed, how much the reader approves of that character's actions, and whether the reader thinks the character is a good person overall. By this definition, a villain would be unlikable because generally the reader should not want the villain to succeed and should find the villain's actions immoral. Unlikable characters can still be engaging to read about. Most well-written villains work this way. An unlikable character isn't necessarily poorly written. The quality of a character is distinct from its likability, and crafting the likability or unlikability of a character is a distinct skill in itself. Here are 3 usually surefire ways to make a character more likable. Thing number 1, make sure the character always punches up. I'm going to wear these in all of my videos.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Bad idea.
You very likely have some sort of hierarchy of characters in your story. If it's a military setting, then there's going to likely be a very well-defined hierarchy. There might be a rigid caste system in your setting that separates nobles from royalty and commoners from peasants. Even your romance story will likely have the 10s separated from the 5s. Wait, no, I was supposed to point to myself when I said 10. Wherever your character fits in this hierarchy, making sure that their anger and conflict is directed up the hierarchy rather than down. A prisoner who stands up to the corrupt warden is a hero. A boss who yells at his minimum wage employees is a bit of a jerk. This is especially important for humorous or snarky characters. If your character is cracking jokes about other characters or pulling pranks, someone who makes fun of someone with a lower station than them generally doesn't come across as very likable, assuming that the humor is the laugh at them sort and not the laugh with them sort. Hurting people weaker than you is generally not seen as a likable thing to do. It's why so many villains combine puppies with blenders. So have your character fight the power, but make sure to, thing number 2, limit the character in some way. Character flaws are an interesting idea. Fiction is ultimately an escape from reality, and at first glance one would think readers would want this escape filled with immaculate, perfect, brilliant people. In reality, by which I mean fiction, the opposite tends to be true. Flawed, imperfect characters tend to land better with readers most of the time. This gets very complex, but I think readers prefer characters who are better than them and have traits that the reader might themselves like to aspire to. But if the character is too much better than the reader, we start to get jealous of them, maybe a little bit envious, and it doesn't work as well. It makes the character less likable. I mean, he's a super gifted secret agent who speaks 12 languages and can do kung fu without wrinkling his tuxedo, but he's a terrible cook, which means I can do something better than him. If your character isn't flawed enough, then the reader may feel disconnected from them, and they will ultimately find the character less likable. Flawing up your character may be a solution. Thing number 3, add some social proof. Humans are naturally wired to agree to things that other humans are themselves agreeing to. We evolved as social creatures, so following along with the herd was of great benefit to our ancestors. This is why online retailers have reviews and why YouTube shows how many views and likes a video gets. If we see that other presumably human people have rated something as 5 stars, or that 1 million other people have watched a video, then we're more likely to buy or watch that video ourselves. This is social proof. When we see other people having an opinion about something, we ourselves are more likely to have that opinion. You can use this in your story to make your characters more likable by having other characters either mention or ideally show that they like this character. Then it's likely the reader will think the same way. There's many different ways you can take this. You can have the character mention how they like the other character in dialogue. You can have them show their appreciation for the actions of the character. You can have them mention specific attributes of the character that you want the reader to pick up on. You have to be very careful with this though. It needs to be done tactfully, and it really only works if the character is already doing things that make them at least a little bit likable. You want this complementary dialogue to come as naturally as possible, otherwise it could really backfire. I don't really like this term, but the Mary Sue character, I think, generally arises out of situations where you have a character who's doing mostly unlikable things, but has other characters in the story talking about how much they like them. This creates a disconnect with the reader that ultimately makes this character even more unlikable than they would be if you remove this dialogue. Ultimately, being sparse and subtle with other characters' praise of the character in question is probably the best way to go about this. You want to avoid overdoing it. Just like I'm glad you didn't avoid this video. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the advice in it useful. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out all my other writing advice related videos and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.